Okay, picture this. You walk through your front door right now. There's a jacket draped over a dining chair instead of, hung up in the closet where it belongs. Over on the kitchen counter, there's a solitary dish just sitting right next to the sink. And right by the door, there's a pile of mail that's been steadily growing for 2 solid weeks because nobody wants to deal with it. And let's be honest, who does? If this sounds familiar, I need to relieve you of a heavy burden right off the bat. You do not have a chaotic personality. You are not a fundamentally disorganized person. You are simply missing a few invisible structural systems. Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to look at some highly specific habits that are deeply embedded in daily Japanese life, habits that make household chaos literally, structurally impossible. It's such a painful paradox, isn't it? The one place on Earth you were supposed to feel totally safe and relaxed in has somehow become the very thing that stresses you out the absolute most. And we just kind of accept this. We treat it as an inevitable fact of modern life. But Japanese homemakers look at this entirely differently. They don't maintain a pristine home through endless discipline or some grueling marathon of willpower. No way. They use small, completely invisible daily systems that address chaos at its absolute source, long before it ever gets the chance to take hold and cause you stress. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our agenda. We'll start with the myth of chaos, move right into the morning audit, look at the daily operating system, design for flow, shift our mindset, and then wrap it all up with a really practical daily checklist. Let's start with Section 1, the myth of chaos, and identifying the exact origins of your messy home. Now, what's really interesting about this is the biggest misconception we have. We think chaos arrives all at once. Actually, it doesn't. It creeps in quietly through 3 very specific and highly solvable problems. First up, delayed decisions. Literally every out-of-place item in your house is a postponed decision. That single dish on the counter, that just represents a postponed decision about whether it gets washed right now or later. Second is threshold blindness. This is a crazy psychological phenomenon where you literally stop seeing the mess because it's just become the visual baseline of your room. You just kind of get used to the unacceptable. And third, the absence of designated homes. When an object doesn't have a fixed place where it belongs, it lands wherever is most convenient, which is almost always a highly visible surface that instantly looks cluttered. When you look at how we typically try to solve this in the West, well, the American approach relies heavily on brute force. We wait for the weekend, drink a massive pot of coffee, and try to muscle through the mess using immense discipline and just exhausting willpower. The Japanese approach, it's the complete opposite. It relies on those invisible daily systems. Instead of fighting the chaos once it has basically taken over the room, the system ensures chaos is structurally difficult to create in the first place. Moving right along to Section 2, the morning audit. Let's cure that threshold blindness. So Japanese homemakers practice something I really love to call the fresh eyes walk. Every single morning before the day fully gets going, you take a deliberate, really brief walk through your home. But here is the trick, and it's absolutely crucial. You consciously pretend you are seeing the space for the very first time. You aren't the person who's lived there for years. You are a first-time visitor experiencing the house fresh. This deliberate step completely shatters visual accommodation. Suddenly, your brain stops filtering things out. That jacket on the chair, it finally registers again. That pile on the stairs that has literally been there for 3 weeks suddenly jumps right out at you. You spot it and you address it right then and there, before your day moves on. Let's move to Section 3 and see how this builds. The daily operating system, rules for immediate action and fixed homes. Okay, once you can actually see the clutter, you need rules for immediate action to make sure it doesn't just come right back. And this brings us to a foundational concept, Ichido de Kimaru. This is the principle of deciding once, immediately. This directly attacks that problem of delayed decisions we talked about. The rule is brilliantly simple. When an item enters your hand, you make a decision about it before you set it down. You never place it down temporarily while you think about it. It requires just a 3-second decision. Mail from the mailbox? Sorted instantly. Action required, file or discard. Before it ever touches a surface. Groceries are put away immediately. Clothes are either hung up or tossed straight in the laundry. Every single clear surface in a home is the direct result of this 3-second rule operating invisibly in the background. But obviously, you can't put an item away immediately if you have no idea where it actually goes, right? This is where Taicho comes in. It's the fixed placement system. Every single object in the home must have one specific place where it lives, not a general area or a vibe, one specific place. Because when objects lack designated homes, they inevitably just land on the nearest convenient surface. Setting up Taicho requires a one-time investment of thought. You need to assign permanent homes, and you absolutely have to make them logical and convenient.
A massive key here is to group items by logical proximity to where they are actually used. I mean, if you make the permanent home so obvious and convenient that returning the object requires almost zero thought, the path of least resistance actually becomes order rather than disorder. This is exactly how you encourage family members to naturally maintain these designated zones. You don't have to nag them constantly, you just make the system so logical that putting things back is literally easier than leaving them out.
Section 4. Designing for flow. Working with human nature, not against it. If you want a peaceful home, you have to stop fighting human nature. The Japanese concept for this is nagare no shiri, the ordering of flow. You see, every home has predictable movement patterns. Think about the path from the front door to the kitchen, or the route from your living area over to the dining table. These movement patterns predict exactly where objects are going to accumulate, because people naturally set things down at the natural pause points in their physical movement. Once you identify these natural pause points, you find your chaos hotspots. Listen, people aren't dropping things there because they are inherently messy. They drop things there because human movement naturally produces accumulation at stopping points. So, we tame these hotspots with small, really intentional containment solutions. Put a hook on the wall exactly where the bags naturally get dropped anyway. Place a small tray on the surface nearest your evening gathering spots so random items can land there intentionally, rather than just sprawling everywhere. Create a dedicated zone near the active cooking area for tools and ingredients. You are capturing items perfectly because you are designing around human nature. But remember, flow needs to be reset. Taking just a quick 3-minute closing routine before bedtime to clear these specific trays and hooks ensures the flow pattern is completely ready for tomorrow.
All right, Section 5, the mindset shift, redefining your relationship with maintenance.
And this brilliantly illustrates the philosophical anchor that keeps you going on days when your motivation is just completely shot. Notice the core philosophy here. The state of your home is a direct output of the accumulated small decisions you make every day. A home in order reflects accumulated small decisions toward order. A home in chaos reflects accumulated small decisions away from it. This isn't some deep mysticism, it is highly practical psychology. The home is understood as a living entity that directly reflects your inner state. Japanese homemakers describe this shift using the concept of karashi no sitsu, the quality of daily living. It's the idea that the way you manage the tiny, small details of your environment is a direct component of your overall quality of life. When you truly internalize this, these actions are no longer annoying chores. They become brief, daily affirmations focusing on the quality of your living space. Every single time you make a 3-second decision or return an object to its fixed home, you are casting a daily vote for the kind of environment and life you deserve to have. Order isn't just a luxury for when you magically have more time. It is a daily practice of self-respect. Section 6, the daily checklist. Your beginner steps to a systemized home. So, the crucial point is bringing this all together. Here is your hyper-practical beginner daily checklist. First, do your morning fresh eyes walk to break that threshold blindness and spot the clutter before your day even starts. Second, implement Ichido the Kimaru. Apply that 3-second immediate decision rule the exact moment something enters your hand. Third, invest the time to establish Taicho. Group items by location to create a logical, fixed placement system for absolutely every object. Fourth, contain your natural flow hotspots using simple hooks and trays. Fifth, establish that 3-minute evening closing routine to clear those hotspots and reset your home's flow before bedtime. And finally, practice Karashino Noisu. View these habits not as chores but as brief daily affirmations and votes for the life you want. If this feels like a lot, I highly encourage you to start with just one habit today. Master the 3-second rule and slowly add the rest of the shebang. I want to leave you with a final, really provocative question. Look around your space today and ask yourself this honestly. What do the daily decisions in your home say about the life you have chosen to live? Remember, chaos is for sure not a personality trait. It is simply a lack of systems. By making small, immediate decisions and giving everything a logical home, you stop fighting your environment and you start designing a space that truly supports you. Thank you for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope you start casting those daily votes for the peaceful home you deserve.